All right, welcome to our video on the 1 to 20 method for marketing your business material and your services. The 1 to 20 method is something that is used by many of the marketing professionals out there or business coaches who help other professionals, reach their online presence. So not only do I think that it's a wise idea to do the old traditional way of marketing, getting out there and meeting other professionals, getting out there and meeting other people in the industry, and connecting with them, maybe other people within the same field as us, health and wellness. So, fitness professionals, acupuncturists, naturopathic doctors, anybody else who is kind of in the wellness sphere are great collaborators. And you should go out and try and do as much free marketing as you can, doing talks and seminars and things like that with local professionals is a great way of boosting your business. Now, that's more of having a presence, in person, and we have lots of material on how to get you moving in that direction. But when you're working online, the 1 to 20 method is something that I think works really well for many reasons. I think it gives you a presence kind of across a broad spectrum of where you're going to be marketing online, different social media platforms, but also, staying in contact with your clients, people who have signed up for your newsletter or your funnels or things like that. I think it's a great way of also keeping it simple. So you create one thing and then turn it into multiple other posts. And that way you're not reinventing the wheel, let's say, and having to think of 20 different posts on different subjects. It's again just to ease up some of your time, but also get you across all of your different platforms. So by now, if you've worked through the course, you should understand that there's different social media platforms that you're going to want to be on. You have to know your customer, as we've talked about. You have to know where they're spending their time on social media. If your clientele is over the age of 40, Facebook is where they're kind of sitting, and you can research this very simply just by, Googling different age brackets and what the most popular social media platforms are for those age groups. And so when you know your client really well, you should be able to execute this very simply and know exactly where you're going to be posting to best get you in front of your clientele online. The 1 to 20 method works really well if you've done your homework before it, before you go ahead and implement this. But this is why it's in the third portion of the business course. You should have already worked through all of those things. But to start off with, essentially what you're going to do is you are going to create a video of some kind. And it's either going to be a Facebook Live, again, works really well if that's where your clients are sitting, a podcast, or some kind of video broadcast. So putting that video up on YouTube, for example, it's a great way of getting you out there. So the first step in the 1 to 20 method, as this kind of shows, is to create some kind of video. And for those of you who are maybe a little bit more shy behind the camera or with your online presence, it's hard for me to say that it's okay to kind of hide behind those feelings and just market online, through posts and carousels and things like that. But the algorithms within these social platforms don't work that way. They need to see a face. They need to see you talking. Videos are really catchy. People want that now. So as much as I'm introverted, it's taken me time to kind of get used to being behind the camera and putting videos out there, but it is so, so important that you try. And it gets easier. I can't say that it's like super fun all the time, because you have to have some level of comfortability with that. And for some of you, this is going to be very, very simple, but it is a learning process. So I do highly recommend that you give it a go, even if it's outside of your comfort level. There's only, one way to get better at public speaking and being in front of the camera. And that's just to do it, actually. I remember like the first time I ever taught in front of a group and had to teach, it was very nerve-wracking. But it has gotten easier and easier over the last, 7 years. So I do highly recommend that if you are a little shy behind the camera, you do it anyway. It's one great way of growing within your practice with yourself. So, step one, I would create a video of some kind. Then step two, you're going to transcribe that video post. So there's multiple ways that you can transcribe a video post. And what I mean by transcribe, this means to create it into a blog post on your blog, which you hopefully have, or LinkedIn has some great article spaces and things like that. So you can transcribe it into some kind of written form. There are programs out there that do this for you. They cost very, very minimal amounts of money. You just plunk the video in there and it pulls out the transcription, so the written version of it. However, I personally like to create a video and then create the blog post myself afterwards. So, listing out in blog form what your video is about, the 5 key steps that you're covering in there, and then put that up as a blog post. So step one, create the video. Step two, transcribe it into a blog or an article somewhere. This way you have a written version of it as well. You can link back to the video that you've created on YouTube. And then from there, you are going to let your subscribers on your newsletter know that this video and that this blog post are out, and you can tag both of them or show both of them in your newsletter that's going out to them. So in the newsletter, you're going to want to just give a teaser of what it is. Either it's going to link directly to the video, or it's going to have a quick snippet of just a piece or two of the information that you're sharing within your video. To further that, you take quotes or take snips of information from those two places, either the blog, again, you have this transcribed, so it should be really easy to do. You take it and you create 5 quotes for tweets, 5 quotes for Instagram posts and stories, 5 quotes for Facebook posts, and then you, in the end, can upload to your YouTube as well, and that creates the video. Now, I like to do something else with this, which isn't really talked about here, but like I said, video is kind of king right now on social media. And so what you can do with this bigger video clip is learn how to cut that into smaller clips. So maybe you created a podcast with a collaborator and there was a really solid 2 minutes of great information that you think people should hear, which will again drive more traffic to the full podcast or to the full video. So you cut those couple minutes out and you can use that as posts on Instagram stories and Facebook and things like that as well. And it just creates another post. So not all of these have to be written, and I would actually kind of do a mix of both. So this is just a general idea of what you want to be doing to create the 1 to 20 method, but you can play around with it a bit. What you want to be doing is at least posting once a day on each of your main platforms. So for us, we try and hit something on Instagram, and then we also try and post on Facebook regularly as well, and then as well as YouTube. That way we are covering the main basis of where our clients, holistic nutritionists or nutritionists, actually spend their time. Now, touching on the repurposing content ideas just a little bit more. So what you want to be doing is, like I said, finding things that you've already done on social media or you've talked about before, and you want to repurpose those ideas. Again, you don't want to reinvent the wheel. So you can record an old blog post as a new Facebook Live or YouTube video. You want to maybe try and break a really long blog post, which is great for search engine optimization, SEO, into 3 shorter pieces. So very similar to the idea I just had about creating one long video and then cutting clips out of it. so that you can get some really solid videos out there sharing what you've talked about previously. You can turn an old blog post into a lead magnet or a PDF. And I actually suggest this, or I will be talking about this in the marketing flow. Ideally, what you want to be doing is creating a video that your clientele is going to be interested in, and then having a lead magnet that they can actually grab value from. So we'll cover that more a little bit later, but the idea would be that you have a video and then a lead magnet that pulls them into signing up for your newsletter or signing them up into some kind of funnel. Now, you can also do things like turning into a blog post into a slide deck, so a carousel in Instagram, republishing your top blog posts on Medium. You have to be careful with republishing blog posts. You don't want things to be word for word recopied on the internet, because the way that Google and other search engines crawl the internet, if they find that there's duplicated information coming from the same source, it will actually stop the bots, let's call them, from promoting your material. So you have to be really careful about that. But publishing an article on Medium, or answering questions in Quora and things like that, are great ways of getting yourself out there. Turn your customer testimonials into social posts. Create quotes from your blog posts and turn them into tweets. There are so many ideas for repurposing content that once you create, 5 to 10 really solid videos, you have enough content for many, many weeks to come. And so it's just knowing the best way of doing those things from start to finish. And this should get you started on that path. So here's an example of a social media calendar that I was using back last year. What it does is just kind of lays out what I want to be posting about over the course of a month, and I know exactly what's going out. So the idea was that I had a workshop coming up. I had created a freebie to go along with it. So I wanted to make sure that I told my email list about it, and then made sure that I sent out reminders on social media regarding that workshop coming up, and then put the registration in those posts. I hosted the workshop, which was an online workshop that I recorded. That was my video, right? So that's step one, creating the video. And then from that video, I started planning the rest of the month based on that. So a quote from the video, a course tip or the workshop tip that came along with it, review from customer from previous work that I had done. And then I again had another workshop coming up. So I kind of just repeated those things. And once the workshops were over, I was able to then, create more and more content based on what I had already done. So posting about the free resource and the lead magnet that I had created for those workshops. Instagram story, I took a clip out of the video and posted about that. And then, asking questions to your audience to get to know them better is also a great way of creating content. So there are so many things that you can do in order to put yourself out on social media.